In the market for a new 70 to 200mm lens? Well, Tamron have just introduced this, the 70 to 210mm f4. But today we're going to look at if it's better than the Nikon 70 to 200mm f4. Not since the late 80s has Nikon released a 70 to 210mm f4. In fact, the original Nikon version was their first ever AF zoom lens. It has since been replaced by the equally affordable 70 to 200mm f4. Tamron has resurrected this focal length and at a price point several $100s cheaper than the Nikon. Be that as it may, is it good enough to sway you? So this is part of Tamron's new range of lenses for 2018, the 70 to 210mm f4. It's got the zoom ring on the front and the focus ring on the back. It's an all plastic but weather sealed body designed in Japan but made in Vietnam. All in all, it actually feels quite sturdy and it's definitely light and easy to take if you have to go traveling. With the Nikon, you're getting this really rather retro 80s look, but we are talking about a lens that was released in 2012. On the side, you're getting plenty of these buttons that help you activate stabilization and focus functions. Speaking of focus, I must say, this lens focuses really rather fast. Well, one, quick enough for this type of zoom range, not quite as fast as a prime, but plenty fast for any sort of sports or bird-related photography. With Nikon, the rings are switched around with the focus up top and the zoom down below. With the Tamron, you're getting a sleeker design. You've only got two buttons on the side for your vibration control on and off, and your AF/MF switch on the side. You are getting that extra 10mm. In terms of autofocus speed, I find it to be somewhat slower than the Nikon, but not by much. And especially at this price point, it's not something that I think is worth complaining about. A lens like this is perfect for situations like this when I have to get really close to these turtles. So I'm just going to punch in. I feel kind of like a peeping Tom here, where I'm just kind of prying into the lives of the turtles. It's kind of like that film, Rear Window. Now, why the 70 to 200 f4, I hear you asking? Well, compared to the 2.8, it's a lot more compact, it's lighter, and optically it's great as well, which means that you're far more likely to take this with you when you go traveling. With the 2.8, that would just weigh you down. Do you really need 2.8? That's the real question. f4 does me plenty, though I'd much prefer it if this was a full frame body. Well, what have we here? Looks like a very familiar sight.
But it says yin yang, but that's not what I'm thinking. It's like throwing a welly down an alley.
Yin yang proved popular with the tourists. Here's a picture of one taking a selfie moments before she was swallowed by the sculpture. Snappy autofocus means you won't miss the shot with either lens. However, video shooters should be aware that focus breathing is pretty intense. What you're seeing on screen, sadly, is not the most extreme scenario.
With both these lenses, you get a really close focusing distance of up to, well, on this one it's 0.95, but on the Nikon it's 1 meter, so it's roughly about the same. So you can get really close in there. It's almost like a macro shot. Zoom into this lovely little thing here, and I'm going to see how much detail I can get and how close I can get. It's time to look at the image quality, and what we're going to do is we're going to take different focal lengths. I'm going to shoot the same area, and then when I take it back to the computer, I'm going to look at the image and see how they vary and which one turns out better. Now, I've heard that the Nikon should be a tad sharper on the corners, but we'll see when we get back.
Here, I've shot both lenses at f11 to compare sharpness. At 70mm, both lenses were about the same in the center, but once we look at the corners, the Tamron is noticeably softer. At 200 and 210mm, we see that both lenses are pretty darn sharp at the center, though to my eyes, the Tamron was a little bit sharper. Overall though, the Nikon seemed to perform more consistently across the range.
It's moments like this when the extra 10mm really comes in handy. I'm so far away from the subject, but with this, I feel like I'm right beside them, peeping away, whilst maintaining a safe distance. With a significant price difference, I'm actually really rather enjoying shooting with this lens, though I'll need to see in the computer to see how big the image quality difference is. But I must say, it's very snappy and it's performing really well, and with the amount of money you'd save by buying this instead of the Nikon one, you could definitely get another lens to go with your collection. The sun is setting, which marks the end of another day. Thus, I must make a decision on which of these is coming home with me. Optically superior, the Nikon 70-200, I just feel it really cannot merit the extra money you'd have to spend to get this. So I would say that this is the one that's coming home with me this evening. You get that extra 10mm. It's significantly cheaper and performs just as well, though you may find that some of the corners are a touch soft. But it looks like this is what I'll be shooting with.